And hello, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Well, the CDC is expanding its booster recommendations as concerns grow over the new COVID variant, Omicron. At least 18 countries now reporting cases. And the newest revelation, Dutch authorities say they've detected the variant in samples taken 11 days ago, indicating it was already circulating in Western Europe before first identified in Southern Africa. Dr. Patel joining me live in just a moment. Tiger Woods speaking out, saying his days as a full-time pro golfer are over following that car crash 9 months ago. Woods held his first press conference since the accident this morning, saying it's been a long road to recovery.
It's hard to explain how difficult it's been. Just to be immobile for 3 months, just lay there, and I was just looking forward to just getting outside. That was a goal of mine, and especially for a person who has lived his entire life outside, that was a goal. And finally got to that point when transitioned from wheelchair to crutches to now nothing. It's been a lot of hard work. I'm very thankful to all the surgeons and especially the nurses who are the unsung heroes through all of it, who were there, by my bed and kept my spirits up, all my friends and family. There were some tough times in there. There were some really, really tough times, and pain got pretty great at times, but they helped me get through it, and I'm on the better side of it, but I still got a long way to go.
Was acknowledging he'll never compete full-time again. The island nation of Barbados is now a republic, removing Queen Elizabeth as their head of state. A historic ceremony taking place to celebrate the new era for the republic and honoring their local gal, Rihanna, as a national hero. Prime Minister Mia Mottley saying, may you continue to shine like a diamond and bring honor to your nation by your works and by your actions. More now on that worldwide concern over the Omicron variant. Health officials are scrambling to determine how much of a threat it actually poses. As we mentioned, at least 18 countries, including Canada, have confirmed cases of this variant now. All of this happening as the CDC strengthens its booster recommendation, now saying everyone over the age of 18 should get one. Stephanie Ramos has the latest.
The U.S. bracing for Omicron, the new COVID-19 variant already detected in at least 18 countries across the globe. Scientists racing to discover if the variant is more transmissible than Delta. Could it make people sicker or evade our vaccines? The CDC sharpening its recommendation on boosters for those 18 and over, previously saying people 18 to 49 years old may want to get a booster. Now recommending everyone 18 and older should get a booster shot 6 months after receiving the Pfizer or Moderna series, or 2 months after their initial Johnson & Johnson vaccine. ABC News learning that in the coming days, Pfizer is going to ask the FDA to expand access to its booster to include 16 and 17-year-olds. President Biden reassuring Americans that there is no reason to panic.
If people are vaccinated and wear their masks, there's no need for the lockdown.
The president also promising all 3 vaccine makers are preparing to update their vaccines if necessary. The chief executive of Moderna announcing that the existing vaccines will be much less effective at tackling Omicron, saying all the scientists I've talked to say this is not going to be good. New York City issuing a new mask advisory on Monday, urging everyone, vaccinated or not, to wear masks in public indoor settings like grocery stores and building lobbies.
We do anticipate detecting Omicron in New York in the coming days based on what we know about its global spread.
States are bracing for the virus. New Jersey's governor urging people to get boosters and prepare for Omicron.
We must be ready now in anticipation of this variant hitting us.
While Omicron hasn't been detected in the U.S. yet, in Minnesota, the state with the nation's highest case rate, where hospitalizations have jumped 50% in the last month, one nurse says teams are short-staffed, leaving frontline workers frustrated and exhausted.
Morale remains low. It seems that we've gone from the most trusted profession in the world to the least trusted.
Across the state, 1,600 people are currently hospitalized with COVID, and 49 hospitals have 0 ICU beds available. The CDC is now stressing everyone over the age of 18 get a booster shot, and pharmacies like the one behind me are booking those booster appointments quickly. Kira.
All right, Stephanie, thank you so much. Well, for more on this, let's bring in our physician at Stanford Children's Health, Dr. Alok Patel. Good to see you, Doc.
Kira, good to see you as well. Hope you had a good, hopefully relaxing holiday.
It was relaxing, yes, and I hope you had the same. Let's talk about, well, it was relaxing until we found out on vacation about this new variant. And now there's a whole bunch of questions, right? And there's this new interview, Alok, that came out in the Wall Street Journal where biotech's founder says that this variant could lead to more infections among the vaccinated, but it's unlikely to cause severe illness. And we're also learning this as the South African doctor who actually raised the alarm about the Omicron variant says that symptoms are mild so far and that there's no reason for panicking. And we heard the president say that yesterday as well. So what's your reaction to this, and how concerned are you, and how concerned do you think we should all be at this present moment?
Well, Kira, I think overall, my reaction is that this is right in line with the messages that we need to be giving not only to Americans, but to the entire world. Is that, number one, we don't need to panic if we're doing the steps we know actually will prevent the transmission and protect our bodies. And that's not only masks and distancing when necessary, but also with the vaccines themselves. Now, what the biotech CEO was referring to in that you can still get infected with this new variant, but it's likely to prevent severe illness, is that if we have a bunch of mutations on those spike proteins, with the Omicron variant having more than 20, remember Delta had about 10 unique mutations, so that's double the amount, it's possible that the virus can still get into the cell and attach to cells and infect somebody who's been vaccinated. But the vaccine can activate other parts of your immune system as well, and there's some memory there, which should be able to neutralize the virus and keep you from getting severely ill. So long story short, this is exactly why scientists would come out to say, if you haven't gotten vaccinated already, please do so. Also, everyone should definitely get a booster. And we need to be talking more about global vaccine equity if we're going to prevent this spread from going at an even wilder pace.
Yeah, and I actually got my booster yesterday after all this news, right? And I was able to even walk into the pharmacy and get it. So they are available, and you can show up, and you don't have to wait very long, depending on where you go. That's good news. Now, the president said yesterday also that we're learning more about this new variant every single day, as you mentioned. So as a physician, what questions do you still have about the variant that you really would like to have answered?
Well, the big question that I have as a physician, as someone who's living in this society, as a parent, is the one that I'm hearing from everyone else as well. It's that, is it really going to be more contagious, more transmissible? Will it cause more severe disease? Is it going to be able to reinfect people? Will it evade the immune system? And all these questions need a little bit of time to find the answer. Scientists need to actually get the variant into a lab, grow it, and mix some blood or some serum from other patients with antibodies and look to see what actually happens. That takes time, which is why it's so important that people understand that everything we're doing right now is preventative. We're trying to prevent an outbreak from happening from this variant. Now, remember last summer, we got a little cocky. We were very happy with how things were going, and then Delta showed up and just rained all over our fall plans. That's exactly what we're trying to avoid, not only for ourselves, but for many parts of the world where they don't have readily available access to vaccines or to the same healthcare infrastructure that we have here.
The president also said yesterday, one more question if you don't mind, he's working on contingency plans. He said that they're working with pharma companies right now to modify vaccines if needed. So do you think this will be necessary? And if so, do you think we'd receive the vaccines in time to actually fight this variant?
You know, Kira, I think this is a headline that's already being misinterpreted right now, and people are looking at this and saying, oh my gosh, the pharma companies are trying to make money. We knew this was going to happen. We've seen this play out amongst conspiracy theorists, and I think it's important that people understand that the capability, the technology is there. That is the beauty of mRNA vaccine technology, which has been around for more than about 2 decades, is that it's essentially a plug and play with the genomic sequence, the genetic sequence of any new variant. I think it's definitely a possibility that we may see a booster or another vaccine in the future if this variant gets out of control. But again, I don't think we should jump to any conclusions there, and we should just tell people what we don't know, what we do know, and make sure that everyone knows that there is no reason to panic as long as you're doing what we all know is work and what will keep you safe.
Dr. Alok Patel, thank you for just calming us all down. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Find the meditation right now. All right.
I have a Tibetan singing bowl back here. Don't worry.
Okay, we're going to pull that out next time we worry. Thanks, Doc. Well, you know, a lot of countries have imposed new travel bans now, which restrict travel from southern Africa to other countries, including the U.S., Singapore, Poland, and a number of others. One of the South African scientists who actually helped identify the Omicron variant took to Twitter to slam the travel ban, saying the world should provide support to South Africa and not discriminate or isolate it. South Africa's health minister also echoed that statement, saying that there's no basis for the restrictions right now. ABC News State Department reporter Connor Finnegan joins me now for more on this. So, Connor, what do you make of all this? And do you think South Africa is being unfairly criticized after being forthcoming, actually, with all this information?
Hey, Kier, yeah, not just criticized, but penalized, really. Travel from South Africa being restricted will have implications for its economy, for its reputation, and it did the right thing here, as you said. Its researchers came forward. They very quickly identified this new variant, and they came forward with that information. They shared it with public health authorities at the World Health Organization in the U.S., and now they are facing these restrictions on travel from their borders. And not just them. There are 8 countries in total that are facing President Biden's restrictions. And some of those countries have not even identified the Omicron variant in their territory yet. Just 2 of the 8, Botswana and South Africa, have. And so President Biden is facing some criticism here for being hypocritical, essentially. President Trump took a similar step early on during the COVID pandemic, banning travel from China. And at the time, candidate Biden said that President Trump was being perhaps xenophobic in his restrictions on travel from China. Well, Biden has now done the same thing, and there are lots of people who are questioning the efficacy of doing just that, and perhaps creating a reverse incentive here, teaching other countries around the world that if you come forward, if you share this information, then perhaps you too will face penalties for it.
So what's the argument then for implementing these restrictions when experts say the variant is likely already here in the United States?
Yeah, I mean, public health authorities say that this is something they recommended to the president. The State Department said that repeatedly yesterday when I pressed them during a briefing. And the argument here is that you buy time, that essentially by restricting the flow of people coming from these countries, you give health authorities the chance to understand a bit more about this virus, understand the strength of it, its ability to transmit, its ability to evade or otherwise evade vaccines and their efficacy. And so if you give health authorities that time, they can learn more about it. They can put restrictions and other measures in place in order to slow the spread of the virus. But again, as you said, this virus is very likely in the U.S. already, although it hasn't been detected, and it's in other countries where travel has not been restricted so far. And so, the problem here is that the folks who are continuing to travel into the U.S. are not facing any sort of additional restrictions. Even with the president's, restrictions from these 8 African countries, U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, and certain foreigners are still allowed to travel to the U.S. Everyone who travels to the U.S. has to have a negative COVID test, but there is no additional quarantine upon arrival in the U.S. when, you could additionally test positive at some point later down the line.
So how could these restrictions affect the world economy, you think, and the global supply chain that's been tangled up in all this mess, too?
Yeah, it's such a mess. And the Federal Reserve Chair just warned about that yesterday. In testimony before Congress, Jerome Powell was saying that this new variant could have a deep impact on the global economy, on those supply chains. If we see additional restrictions, additional lockdowns around the world with folks not able to go to work or unwilling to go to work, we could see additional issues with bringing goods onshore into the U.S. or manufacturing here in the U.S. and around the world, really.
Our State Department reporter and producer, Connor Finnegan. Connor, thanks so much.
Thanks, Kara.
Well, coming up, jury selection set to begin today in the case of former police officer Kim Potter, who says she mistakenly fired her gun instead of her taser, killing Dante Wright. And welcome back. So glad you are streaming with us. Jury selection begins today in the case of former Minnesota police officer Kim Potter, charged with manslaughter after she shot and killed Dante Wright during a traffic stop earlier this year. Potter says she fired her gun by accident, actually thinking it was her taser. Alex Perez has the latest.
The high-profile trial of the now former officer who says she mistakenly fired her gun instead of her taser, killing 20-year-old Dante Wright, set to get underway. The fatal shot captured in this dramatic body camera video. Jury selection beginning today. Kim Potter is charged with first and second-degree manslaughter. Potter and an officer she was training pulled Wright over in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota for an expired tag back in April when they discovered Wright was also wanted on a misdemeanor warrant. After Wright struggles with the officer, Potter draws her weapon. The single shot to the chest, killing Wright. The incident occurred just about 10 miles away from where Derek Chauvin was standing trial at the time for the murder of George Floyd. No peace. Potter's defense argues she never intended to kill Wright and that she made an innocent mistake. Potter telling the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, "I'm a good person and I valued him in life. The aftermath of that day has destroyed me." But prosecutors say the 26-year police veteran was trained to not make such mistakes and her actions were criminal. Dante Wright's heartbroken family closely following the proceedings.
What I'm hoping for is some type of justice, her to be held accountable for what she did.
And our thanks to Alex Perez for that report. Let's talk more about this, okay? Kim Potter's trial as it begins. Host and legal analyst of the Law and Crime Network, Terry Austin, is also following it. Terry, what do you think the likelihood is of a conviction for Potter, and what different charges does she face here?
I think the likelihood is great that she will definitely be convicted of either manslaughter 1 or manslaughter 2. Those are the two charges that she's currently facing right now. Manslaughter 1 is a reckless standard, meaning that she basically had no regard for life. And manslaughter 2 is the lesser of those charges, meaning that it was an accident, it was culpable negligence, but she should be held accountable. And basically, Kira, the difference is really 15 years and 10 years. But I do think the jury is going to come back with one or the other of those charges.
So jury selection actually begins today. So what do you think that process is going to look like, given the high-profile nature of this case?
Well, Judge Chu has allowed cameras into the court, which is interesting because initially she had said no cameras, but because of COVID, she's now decided the cameras can be in that courtroom. And her style is very interesting. She has this soft, captivating voice, and she sort of soothes the jury and makes them feel very comfortable, thank them sincerely for being there, saying that they are really serving their country. So far, the selection has gone well. She did the preliminary instructions, and then she individually questioned juror number 2, and he was accepted by both sides. So they're continuing that process, and based on her time schedule, I think she will be able to finish the trial by Christmas Eve, is what she told the jury.
So do you think Potter will take the stand, and could that help or hurt her in this case?
You know, that's always the million-dollar question, whether or not the defendant should take the stand. I think it all depends on how that evidence goes in. I think the defense is going to hold that card close to the vest. It could help her because she could describe what is going on in her mind, what she was thinking at the time. I think the jury's going to want to know how she, whether or not she panicked. Did she bring her training into question? And how could she have pulled the trigger on a gun versus a taser? So it could help if she could explain that thought process, but it could also hurt if, in fact, that cross-examination goes poorly.
Right, and I think that's what folks are really interested in. How could she mistake a taser for a gun? There's a weight difference, color difference, a feel, and you even see in the partner that she's with, you see the bright yellow taser on her partner. So it's very curious for sure. And the incident occurred just about 10 miles from where Derek Chauvin was standing trial at the time for the murder of George Floyd. So how does both the timing and location of this shooting impact this case, you think?
I think it does impact this case. There's so much going on in Minnesota. Like you said, that George Floyd verdict and the fact that they have had shootings like this before where officers have been involved with killing other people. So you've had the Castile case, obviously, and the Mohammed Noor case, as you mentioned, George Floyd, and now this case. So there are a multitude of cases where you've had officers who have been charged with killing individuals, and I think that the jury is aware of that. Hopefully that will not influence their decision in this case, because they should make their decision in this case just based on the evidence that comes in here. And this is a very different case, I think. I think the jury might be able to understand that she didn't initially intend to kill him and that it could very well have been an accident, certainly based on what she said during that body cam video.
Before I let you go, Terry, we follow so many different trials together, and this one is definitely unique, and a lot of people are paying attention to it for many reasons. What do you find the most interesting? Because it really, following so many cases, especially with you, that involve weapons, right? What stands out to you about this? Why do you think this is such a unique trial?
I think this is unique because you have such divergent views about what happened. You have those individuals who think clearly this was an accident because you hear her voice, you see what's going on, she's so upset afterwards. On the other hand, you have Daunte Wright's family and others who support the family, Ben Crump, etc., saying this should have been a murder charge, this was intentional. I listened actually to some of the press conference, and some of those family members definitely thought that this was intentional, that she had targeted individuals. So it's very interesting to me that you can have a case where people really have such differing views on whether this was an accident or whether she intentionally killed.
Terry Austin, thank you so much. All right, that does it for this hour of ABC News Live. I'm Kira Phillips. Thanks so much for joining us. Remember, we are always here for you all day and night with the latest news, context, and analysis. I'll see you right back here at 3 p.m. Eastern with Terry Moran. Have a fabulous day.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.